Doug, are you ready to roll?
Ready to roll. Thank you,
Okay.
Rebecca, for
You
that
bet.
very kind introduction. So what does greatness have to do with teal? What does greatness have to do with teal? While you're pondering that question, let me share an overview of my relationship with a great workplace philosopher, Peter Kestenbaum, what I've learned from him, what we take away from Peter's thoughts and writings in terms of self-managed organizations and management and leadership, and how we relate that to teal, how we relate that to greatness. So this is my friend Peter Kestenbaum. This is Peter and I in 2019. Peter lives here in California, just a couple hours west of where I live, and he is my best friend in life. I met Peter in 2014. We had a self-management symposium in Sacramento with the Morningstar Self-Management Institute, and that represents the bulk of my business background. And I invited Peter Block to attend and participate and deliver a keynote at that conference. And he declined, but he recommended his friend, Peter Kestenbaum. And Peter Block and Peter Kestenbaum have been collaborators and friends for probably 40 years at that point. And they co-authored the book Freedom and Accountability at Work. So I reached out to Peter Kestenbaum, and he came, and he was delightful and inspirational to everyone. He and his wife Patty, we became friends. We started speaking on a regular basis. I made pilgrimages to his house in Carmel, California, where I got downloads on the best of philosophy in the workplace. And we still talk on a regular basis today. Peter just released a new book on February 14th called Confronting Our Freedom, Leading a Culture of Chosen Accountability and Belonging, with Peter Block. And Peter Kestenbaum is going to be 96 years old in April, so I think that's quite an achievement for a 95-year-old. Peter's story is that he grew up in Nazi Germany. He was face to face with Adolf Hitler in Berlin as a young boy. His family fled Germany just prior to the Holocaust. He grew up in Caracas, Venezuela, where he lived and studied with Presbyterian missionaries there. He's a very brilliant young man, so he went to Stanford University at the age of 16 and ended up getting a master's and a doctorate in philosophy at Harvard and Boston University. Eventually, he came back to California. He taught philosophy at San Jose State for probably 34 years. So at that point, he was a sought-after consultant. He traveled the world as a 71-year-old business consultant, teaching philosophy to business leaders, met with the CEOs of some of the biggest companies in the world, including Ford and EDS at the time, teaching them about the power of anxiety and leadership in a rapidly changing world. So he's had quite a full and amazing life. And so the lessons that I drew from him and continue to draw from him are what I propose to share today, and how that relates to the future of work and what we refer to as teal. So we can, I think I can safely assert that the world of traditional management, traditional leadership is broken. We look at statistics like these. Leadership development is a $366 billion global industry. and why most programs don't work. If anyone knows the return on investment, the $366 billion that companies around the world spend every year on leadership development, please let me know. I'm incredibly curious about that return on investment. There are lots of different approaches to leadership, of course. Sergio Carreta has gone and done a taxonomy of different leadership models and approaches. He's got hundreds of them identified in different categories and buckets. Leadership is interestingly a very atomized and incoherent sphere of knowledge and understanding. Marcus Buckingham wrote a book just a few years ago called Nine Lies About Work. And his ninth lie about work is that leadership is a thing. So leadership is this thing to which we can aspire. And if people are deficient in one or more elements of leadership, we can then go in and fix them. And so that's how we end up spending $366 billion a year on leadership development programs, most of which don't work. So the traditional approach is that a consultant comes, parachutes into a company. They have a model. It may be a 5-part model or a 7-part model or a 12-part model, whatever it is. And they share some inspiring lessons of leadership from the past. Maybe they show some videos. Martin Luther King Jr., I Have a Dream, or John F. Kennedy, Let's Go to the Moon. But people get excited and thirst for this ability to generate terrific leadership in the workplace. And then the consultant pulls out a 360 or some kind of assessment. And it's all based on the model that they've introduced. And lo and behold, most people are sadly quite deficient in the different elements of the leadership model that's being introduced. And so they go from elation to feeling sunken and sad. But don't worry, we just spend like $25,000 or $30,000 over the next 6 months, and we can fix you. We can correct those deficiencies and deficits and bring you up to the kind of leader that you were meant to be. And so that, again, is how we end up spending $366 billion a year on leadership development programs, most of which don't work. Is there a way out of this leadership purgatory in which we find ourselves? I'd like to propose that there is. So young Peter Kestenbaum, when he was in his 30s, was in Scandinavia, Sweden, I believe, and he was in a plaza, an outdoor plaza, where there were 4 flags of 4 different Scandinavian countries flying in the wind, and he looked up at those 4 flags in a diamond or square shape, and he said, "You know what? That is it gives me a flash of an idea about how to think about leadership." So in an instant, or a very short period of time, Peter developed what he called the Kestenbaum Leadership Diamond. And that is the model that he shared with business leaders all over the world in his consulting heyday. It's what he has shared with a number of his followers and acolytes and coachees like myself. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. So I'd like to think this is the simplest, purest, most coherent, clearest, and most natural, based on human beings, way to think about leadership in the world and how to take it out into the world in a successful way. So this is the starting point of the leadership diamond is the bottom, and the bottom is called courage. So Aristotle said courage is the leadership attribute that is more important than all leadership attributes, because it's the leadership attribute that makes all other leadership attributes possible. And so we start with courage. That's the base of the diamond. And see to the left of courage is the idea of anxiety. Anxiety, as Aristotle also said, is the fuel for courage. Anxiety is pure energy. Is there anyone on this call today who never feels anxiety? That would be interesting. I've had one person in a workshop in the last 10 years tell me they never feel a shred of anxiety, which is good for them. But anxiety is really a human characteristic and pretty much unavoidable. It's also the gasoline or fuel for courage. It's how we know that we need to exercise courage, whether it's at work or in our personal lives, our civic lives, our community lives, our family lives, or anywhere else. Anxiety, the fuel for courage, the starting point. Well, that leads to a second point on the diamond. And the second point of the diamond is the top of the diamond, which is ethics. So courage is about one's inner will, one's inner strength, one's inner perseverance. Courage is about the ability to take an unpopular stand publicly. It's about the willingness to defend people who aren't in the room. It's about the willingness to speak up when words are called for in a situation. It's about the willingness to take action in the face of reticence on the part of other people. Courage is about one's inner resoluteness, inner strength, inner will. That's courage. Ethics, on the other hand, is completely different. Ethics is about other people. Ethics is about caring, kindness, compassion, support, nurturing, empathy. Ethics is about how we treat other people, how we listen to other people, how we are present for other people. Ethics is also about right and wrong. It's about doing the right thing in circumstances as opposed to the wrong thing. It's not taking advantage of others in a situation. It's being fair, it's being open, it's being transparent, being kind. So ethics is about other people, courage is about one's inner self. So Peter also introduces the idea here of polarity. So courage is set opposite to ethics, because courage is about oneself, ethics is about others. But polarity is the essence of this entire leadership diamond. And Peter says the job of every human being, the job of every leader, is to manage polarities. They are conundrums, puzzles, paradoxes. They aren't problems to be solved. We're never going to solve ethics problems by ignoring ethics. We're never going to eliminate the need for courage by being shy and retiring. Polarity is the art of managing both sides of this equation in ways that propel us forward and don't paralyze us. Polarity management is the job of every leader. Recognizing polarities is the job of every leader and every human being. So there are still two parts of the diamond. The left side of the diamond is reality. So reality is things as they are today. What is the current state of reality? What is the terrain upon which I'm operating? What is my subconscious telling me about a particular situation? What is my inner emotional state at a given moment in time? What is the emotional state of the people with whom I'm interacting? What are my budgetary constraints, my financial constraints, my resource constraints? But also, what are the opportunities? Where are opportunities for me to carpe diem a situation and take advantage of an opportunity? So what is the realistic, current state, accurate state of things? Reality is about having zero illusions. It's about understanding things as they actually are. The state of relationships, the state of mental health, the state of resources and opportunities and constraints, and everything that can impact one's decision making in the workplace and elsewhere. Having a very clear, cold-eyed, transparent, ultra-clear understanding of current reality is crucial to being a leader at work or anywhere else. So that leaves one side of the diamond. And the right side of the diamond is vision. So great, we understand reality, we have a great deal of courage, fueled by anxiety, we understand ethics, we care about people. And at Morningstar, what we try to do with ethics is encourage people to develop caring, compassionate relationships with coworkers so that people understand each other at a human level. What Edgar Schein, the late great Edgar Schein called level 2 relationships. So vision, if reality is about current state, vision is about a desired future state into which I, as a leader, can invite people to join me, not command people, but invite people to join me on a journey toward a desirable future state. And if people trust me and believe me and understand that I have a good sense of reality and courage and ethics, then I'm likely to be able to attract followers on whatever this particular project or journey happens to be. So new concepts introduced here. The concept here that surrounds this entire leadership diamond is free will. People are walking, talking freedoms. Everyone has free will. Everyone has free will. And we know this because we're all on this call. We chose to be here on this call today. And we could have chosen otherwise. We could have chosen to be in another room or doing another event or involved in something else. We chose to be here today to talk about greatness in leadership. So free will surrounds everything we do. People are walking, talking freedoms. People don't have to work for our organizations. They can choose to work elsewhere. And recognizing that individuals have free will and confronting them with their own freedom is one of the tasks of great leaders. So the other idea here is the idea of transcendence. Transcendence means that we can pull concepts out of this leadership diamond that elevate our sense of destiny, concepts like mindfulness and consciousness, infinity. How many of us think about our destiny on a regular basis, on a daily or weekly basis? These kinds of concepts are really important. And to the degree that we can actually carve out time and energy to focus on these ideas in terms of our relationships with other people and how we manage and lead other people, This can elevate our line of sight and give us the energy to pursue a desirable future state, i.e. the vision. So where does all this lead? Well, in Peter's mind and his writing, the idea is that it leads ultimately to the idea of greatness. In Peter's mind, greatness is something that every individual contributor should pursue for themselves and for their organizations. Why? Because greatness is an inherent good. It is an inherently good thing to achieve, to pursue. What is the opposite of greatness? The opposite of greatness is mediocrity. Who wants mediocrity for themselves or their family members or their coworkers or other people in their lives or their organizations? Why would anyone want that? Greatness is inherently good. It's something that we should all strive for. And how do we do that? Well, we optimize these 4 points on this very simple diamond. We work on our courage. We allow our courage to be fueled by our own anxiety. Anxiety is that little voice in our head that says, you know, you really should speak up and defend this person in this meeting, or whatever the circumstance happens to be. A very, very deep sense of ethics, a very strict sense of right and wrong, very clearly adhering to ethical standards, and deep caring and empathy, emotional intelligence, relationship intelligence, deep caring about other people as human beings, whether at work or elsewhere. And then really being clear about reality and what is possible and what is not possible. What is the current state of reality? And then being open to sharing visions of some desired future state with one's co-workers or community members or people in one's family or organizations outside of work. What does that vision look like? How can we make it a reality from which we can springboard into future visionary activities as leaders together? So greatness is inherently good. This is the simplest, purest model of leadership development I've ever come across, and it's quite congruent with Morningstar. And Morningstar is a TL organization that runs on self-management and very simple principles. 2 principles there are: don't use force or coercion, and keep your commitments. And so we teach people to become walking, talking freedoms, to confront their own freedom in the workplace and exercise it appropriately, and to confront others with their own freedom, so that we can create a great organization of oneness and belonging. So with that, I'm going to tap the brakes and turn it over to Rebecca and let her take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. A question. You talked about ethics, and in our current state, we seem to have a lot of different definitions of ethics. And you talked about in your presentation the awareness of right and wrong. And how do you define right and wrong congruently in an organization? Because oftentimes individuals come with very different perspectives on what is right and wrong.
Well, when I talk about right and wrong, I'm talking about very high level concepts like don't steal, don't cheat on your time card, don't steal, Don't cheat on your credit card. Don't rack up personal expenses on a credit card, company credit card. Those kinds of things are pretty universally agreed upon. And so don't, if you look at unethical companies like FDX and Sam Bankman-Fried, then just don't do what those people do. Don't lie, cheat, and steal, and you'll be in good shape.
Esther has a question about what is your strategic plan to implement change for a better future?
So my strategic plan to implement change is to share the Kestenbaum Leadership Diamond as widely as I possibly can all across the world. And I'm quite grateful to Peter for still being active and working hours a day at the age of 95 out of his sheer passion for the subject matter that I discussed today. And so my strategic plan is to hopefully emulate him and never retire and keep working until I'm in my mid-90s, sharing these ideas as far and wide as I possibly can.
May you have good health. Liz from Copenhagen asks, how did the conglomerate companies that Peter Kay taught think of his leadership diamond? Did they change anything after Peter worked with them over the years?
So it's very interesting. So the companies Peter worked with changed significantly since he was there. He was consulting heavily in the in the 1990s and 2000s. So he worked with leaders at Ford when they were facing a potentially crippling strike in their automobile plants and helped them through that. You can read more about his adventures with these various CEOs and companies in a very interesting article called "Do You Have the Will to Lead?" Which was an interview by Paulie Labar and published in Fast Company magazine. I think it was February of 2000. So "Do You Have the Will to Lead?" was a good article, and it really described the different engagements, several of the different engagements that he had and how those turned out.
Doug, in some of the companies that we all support, courage doesn't come up very often. There tends to be a fear about speaking out or taking action. How do you motivate and create the safe space for individuals to step up?
So what Peter would say is that you don't motivate them. If you believe in free will, it's nobody's job to motivate anybody else. People are either going to motivate themselves or not. So they're either going to reach inside and use the anxiety they're feeling as fuel for taking the courageous steps that need to be taken, or they're not. And all we can do as co-workers and leaders is to encourage people to do just that.
So we have another question. How will you get enough momentum to get the change you would like to see? I applaud you to continue to work hard, though I may challenge you to go past the tipping point.
Well, get enough momentum. I think it's really I think it's a matter of understanding. So when people understand these concepts and at a deep, visceral gut level, it can be life-changing. It can lead to that greatness I discussed. And So, understanding these concepts deeply and then applying them rigorously on a day-to-day basis is how change will occur. And it's one person at a time. It's one person at a time, because to embrace these ideas and actualize them is a decision.
Mhm.
So individuals need to make the decision to embrace and actualize these principles. And some people will choose not to, but momentum is going to come from more and more people learning these ideas and then putting them into practice. That's the only source of momentum that I see.
So Ari has commented, I think there's again a big challenge with the suggestion that people having different ideas about ethics is as such significant to define ethics. I might have strong ideas about plumbing, but no substantive knowledge. Do you have a comment on Ari's thought?
Different ideas about ethics. So, yeah, well, I think that the different understandings is just another polarity that we have to manage as leaders. So we have deep understanding of one form of ethics as Peter defines it, and then we have people with different understandings. And so if that's out there in the world, then we have to figure out how to manage that as best we can. So what are those different understandings of ethics, and how does that potentially relate to this leadership diamond? We'll have to explore that. So let's have the conversation.
There's no doubt a number of times you've presented the leadership diamond to different groups. What are some of the biggest surprises that you see people become aware of as they learn about this?
Well, one of the things that people consistently say is that they didn't realize that anxiety was so crucial to instantiating courage. So anxiety can be, it's Peter would say, it's the job of every person to manage his or her anxiety in ways that propel them forward and don't paralyze them. Pure anxiety is pure energy, and it can be paralyzing if it's not properly channeled. So people getting insight into that idea of, how can we optimize and channel that pure energy that comes from anxiety into positive returns based on courage. That is an insight that most people aren't aware of.
Yeah. So a question from Audie. How do we take leadership beyond the individual into the organization? How does it influence practices and structures to scale more good leadership?
So we can do absolutely. We can take this into organizations and workshop it at scale. And these concepts I shared this morning we're just scratching the surface. So we can take any one of these points of the diamond, and we can look at 3 together or 2 together, dyads and triads, and dig into what those mean and how we can actualize those and put them into practice in the workplace and apply them to situations in the workplace. So this is an extremely versatile tool. It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife of leadership. Very powerful and yet very versatile tool.
Any more questions from our from our audience? Please feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like and ask any questions or make any comments.
Yeah, if I can come in, Doug, and I have to say it's lovely to see you again. It's such a pleasure. What you described resonates with me, and again, no surprise. We are coming from an Aristotelian virtue ethics, and the way that practical wisdom is defined, I think, resonates very much with your diamonds. It's the understanding of what is at stake in the reality as you describe it. It's the ethics to judge on what the options are. It's bringing that through your courage into the moment. And I think to a degree, what you describe is a personal development of such leadership wisdom. And I wonder, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I wonder, what are your experiences in facilitating that? How it's nice to show the dimensions, because I mean, even one thing like transcendental, boy, we could have 15 teals to talk about what that means, right? Are we talking metaphysics? Are we talking mysticism? Are we talking religion? What is it, right? So how do you take people on the journey to develop that diamond, which I would call wisdom?
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Adi. So personally, I deliver a full day workshop in the diamond, which is a deep dive. It includes assessments. You can actually assess your own place on the diamond at a website called PIB.net. That stands for Philosophy and Business.net. But we go through the diamond in great detail, do a lot of small group work, and then we do some creative project work using the principles of the diamond. The workshops that I've done have been, I would say, very powerful and very touching. We've had strong emotional reactions to receiving some insights from this process, and tears, and just brave sharing of confronting people with their own freedom, and how that was perhaps could be used more appropriately. So it's been a very powerful journey for me in taking a large group through a full day of just their self-learning. They're teaching themselves, share a few concepts, and then they work with it. It's been a very powerful experience from my standpoint and from the feedback that we've gotten.
I want to throw a quick question behind, if I may, Rebecca, and thank you for facilitating. It's just the question I had, Doug, on taking it into the organization. So one of the challenges we have, like you, we're trying to make leaders become better, so to speak. And they go home into their organizations. And the organizations is traditional, old style, command and control, you name it. And they hit the wall, and 3 months later they leave, right? How do you deal with that problem?
Well, you have to decide if it is a problem, because if a person is a leader, a walking, talking freedom, grounded in freedom and accountability, finds himself or herself in an organization of strict command and control, it may not be the right organization for them. They perhaps should choose to leave. So, that may not be a problem. It may be a facet of reality, but it's not necessarily a problem if people react to their environment in ways that are rational.
Any more questions before we go to the spatial to the spatial chat area? We're in Teal Lounge, and I've just put the link again in chat. Any more questions before we leave this space? Oh, this is your chance.
Yeah, I have a dilemma. The dilemma basically being just doing one by one actions, just encouraging people one by one or organization by organization is actually not going to succeed changing the world. We've seen it in the past. We've had a few people who tried, who failed miserably in many ways. So how actually do we do it? And my dilemma is I want to if I knew, but we also need to get together and move together forward as a united front. But not even that is going to be enough. And my dilemma is that if you wanted to use Teal strategies and the goodness, then it's not going to work. Do you have to be fighting for being good? And as soon as you fight, it's not Teal anymore.
Well, I grew up in a company called Morningstar, and we decided in one meeting in 1990 to become a self-managed organization. And we grew from zero to become the largest tomato processor in the entire world. And I don't doubt that all of you have eaten Morningstar product as a result. So we were obviously listed in Frederick's book as a Teal organization. We embrace this approach to leadership. Are we going to change the world with me sharing it on podcasts and meetings and sharing it inside Morningstar? I don't know. I have no idea. But I do feel compelled to share it because I think it's quite profound and quite congruent with the idea of self-management, which is a big part of Teal. Everyone can be a leader to the degree they're interested and engaged. Everyone can exercise leadership in every aspect of their lives. That's the wholeness concept. Whether it's your work life, your community life, your family life, your civic life, every aspect of people's lives gets better when they embrace self-management. And so it's one organization at a time. We do our best.
Well, and with that, Doug, I really thank you for the time. Please join us in Spatial Chat. You'll find the link again in our channel. And Doug, thank you.